You're watching The World now. Let's turn our attention to the war in Ukraine. Talks in London aimed at securing a ceasefire between the country and Russia have been no longer include the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. The meeting today will instead take place among senior officials from the UK, France, Germany, Ukraine and the US, while the UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy will host a bilateral meeting with his Ukrainian counterpart. There is growing speculation that Russia might be willing to halt its invasion along current front lines in return for significant concessions. However, there is little clarity about where the latest talks are heading or whether they will succeed. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has ruled out recognizing occupied Crimea as Russian territory after reports suggested this was being considered by the US and Kremlin. As efforts to achieve lasting peace are being made, Russia intensified its drone attacks on Ukraine today, killing 9 persons and wounding dozens more in the eastern Ukrainian city of Mahanets, hitting a bus carrying workers. Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, says the U.S. has issued a very explicit proposal to both the Russians and the Ukrainians, and it's time for them to either say yes or the United States to walk away from the peace negotiation process.
Well, I'm going to echo something Secretary Rubio said, which is, look, we've issued a very explicit proposal to both the Russians and the Ukrainians, and it's time for them to either say yes or for the United States to walk away from this process. We've engaged in an extraordinary amount of diplomacy, of on-the-ground work. We've really tried to understand things from the perspective of both the Ukrainians and the Russians. What do Ukrainians care the most about? What do the Russians care the most about? And I think that we've put together a very fair proposal. We're going to see if the Europeans, the Russians, and the Ukrainians are ultimately able to get this thing over the finish line. Again, I feel pretty optimistic about it. I think everybody has been negotiating in good faith, but it's now time, I think, to take, if not the final step, one of the final steps, which is at a broad level, the parties saying, we're going to stop the killing, we're going to freeze the territorial lines at some level close to where they are today,